It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Well, good morning, folks. And, it's always a somber Wednesday on 9/11. And just want to take a moment to remember all our great heroes that fell that day. And we'll never forget. So I want to start out with the show with that. We've got a really great show on tap today, folks. I'm very excited about this show. We have Shayne Snavely. He's been on the show before as a past guest, and I think all of us will find this show incredibly interesting. He is actually running in the state of Virginia for District 10 Senate race. And it's going to be very interesting for all of us here nationwide to see how similar politics are no matter where you're at and how the issues really come down to the people and what matters. Here locally, we just had a primary election that decided many of our races, and the people came out. And in the end, it was listen to us. We felt like elections and the politicians that have been in office haven't been listening to people. And this race is going to be no different. And I'm really looking forward to spending the next 2 hours here, actually, to speak with Shayne. We're going to cover a lot of different topics with Shayne Snavely and why he's running for the Senate race in District 10 in Virginia. But before I do, I want to thank my sponsors. Attention boaters, if you're looking for a safe harbor during hurricane season or a top-notch boatyard to keep your vessel in tip-top shape, look no further than Indiantown Marina. Indiantown Marina is not just your average boat storage facility nestled in South Florida along the Okeechobee Waterway. They're a well-protected hurricane hull that is savvy cruisers love to call home. They offer a full array of boatyard services and do-it-yourself. Reserve your safe hurricane harborage today and let Indiantown Marina be the ultimate caretaker for your vessel. Give them a call at 772-597-2457 or visit them at indiantownmarina.com. And don't forget, just down the street is Indiantown Marine Center. They strive to provide their customers with an efficient and user-friendly location for servicing and storing their vessels while still maintaining cleanliness, environmental quality, and safety. They provide dockage, travel lifts, workspace, long-term storage, and other repair and maintenance services, as well as offering convenient hurricane haul-out program. Indiantown Marine Center is a contractor yard and can provide a list of approved contractors that their customers can engage in with no markup or gate fees. Customers are welcome to bring their own contractor provided that pre-approval is given before starting work. Look them up online, IndiantownMarineCenterFL.com, or give them a call, 772-597-0800. And finally, don't forget about Susie Nash out there. She is out there just singing her lungs out she's on tour. You can catch her really on Spotify if you can follow her there. She's getting just thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, tens of thousands. So very exciting. Susie Nash, look her up. She's been in the studio before. Fantastic voice and a fantastic message. Great person. So with no further ado, Shayne Snavely. He's a distinguished disabled veteran who served honorably in the U.S. Army 101st Airborne, embodying his unwavering commitment to our nation. With over 20 years of experience as a government and military contractor, including significant work with Army Special Forces, Shayne has developed a deep understanding of national security needs and dedicated service. As an entrepreneur, Shayne has founded and managed multiple businesses, driving job creation and economic growth. His conservative values and active engagement in Virginia politics reflect his dedication to upholding American ideals and promoting responsible governance. Certified in armed personal protection by the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice, Shayne is also a founding partner of Executive Protective Services, emphasizing community safety. His latest endeavor as a founding partner of Rainmaker Strategic Partners, a nationally recognized full-service campaign consulting firm, highlights his commitment to effective political strategies for a stronger Virginia. Shayne's political acumen is demonstrated through his leadership roles in recent campaigns. He has served as a senior legislative aide and head of security for a Virginia state senator's gubernatorial campaign and later joined another senator's team. His substantial contributions to the victorious Virginia elections were pivotal in electing the current governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. Shayne Snavely is dedicated to serving Senate District 10 with integrity, experience, and a vision for a prosperous future. His supporters regard him as a proven leader who will diligently represent their interests and uphold cherished values. Shayne, welcome to the show today. Appreciate you coming down here to South Florida to share your message about running for the District 10 Senate seat in Virginia.
Thanks for having me, Casey. It's wonderful to be here, and I always enjoy coming down and talking to you. We've done several shows, and I'm just glad to be here and glad to talk about the issues.
Honestly, and as Shayne mentioned, he has been here several times before. This is a really interesting race. Right now, it's a special election in the state of Virginia. It's a seat that is heavily Republican district. Right now, there are 3 candidates that have filed. There may be another one that's coming in. We don't know, of course. But one of the people that have filed for the race is somebody that you used to work for, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But it'll be certainly a race that I think could even get some national attention because of the issues and the people that are running for this race. And Shayne, let's start out and talk about you first, because this is a district that is near and dear to your heart. And you're a person that I've talked with you so many times on this show. What stands apart in my mind when I've spoken with you is you care about what people think. It's not what your interest is personally, but you want people's voices. And I'll let you speak to that.
Well, I feel that as a legislator, you have to start really thinking about the people, what the people want in your district. So many times we see legislators go to office and they sort of forget the small guy. They forget the hardworking people that are actually building the nation, keeping the nation up, and their main supporters. A lot of legislators, especially once you get in office, you'll have a lot of big donors, and you sort of get committed to some things. And I think I see a lot of times that they start working for bigger projects versus working for the little guy in their district. And one of my main platforms and focuses is going to be, look, this is the people's seat. It's not my seat. I say also so many times legislators, they get the power trip. It's their seat. No, it's the people's seat. And you should be doing what the people ask. And also, so many. It's a state senate seat, but I think you should put your district first. You work on the state overall state projects with your caucus, with the overall body of the Senate and the House, and get things done. But I think the main focus should be look at what the people need in that district, and crafting the legislation in a way that one, you can get it passed. And legislation that actually does something for the people on the street, the businesses, the farmers, the working person. And so many times I see what I call statement bills, run-on bills. That's fine to have a few bills that are you push because of the statement. If you're for abortion bans, put an abortion ban bill in. But in most places, that's not going to get passed. Probably nowhere in the country will a full-on abortion ban get passed. So, senators will put that in, or a legislator will put those type of things in. But depending on the makeup of your Senate and your legislative body, you already know whether those will get passed or not. And I feel more that we need to get away from that. Yeah, tell your people you're pro-God, you're pro-life, you're pro-America first, you're pro-business and all these things, and tell them that. But you don't have to waste your legislation on coming back and saying, I tried, but I couldn't get it done.
So, Shayne, you're not really somebody that's out there to look for bills for talking points. It sounds like you're looking for bills that are truly going to impact your residents. And I want to talk about that a little bit more, the makeup of your district. Mm-hmm. We were talking about it a little bit ahead of the show, and it's deeply agricultural. It's a rural area. And, I'm here to say, and you can tell me what those folks have told you, because I know you've been out on the campaign trail and speaking with a lot of people. But folks, there is no harder worker in America, in my opinion, than the agricultural community. The job is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then you have to deal with weather, things that you can't control that can impact an entire year's worth of work. And there's just a lot of things that determine a success or failure every year for the farmers. So, Shayne, I'm going to step back a little bit, and hats off to the American farmer. Thank God you're out there. There's so much food coming in from China, and that I love that we are supplying our own products here in the United States. But you've been out on the campaign trail. What are these farmers looking for?
Well, they're looking for help, for one. They're looking for relief on some regulations, especially the smaller farmer. A lot of times they can't compete with the regulations and the things that they have to do. And it varies from state to state, but there's federal regulations. But they're looking for help with reducing some regulations so they can compete with the larger farmers. They're looking for some tax relief. They're looking for whatever kind of grants they can get to help them. They're looking for new ideas and new agricultural products to grow. For instance, in the Cumberland County, which is one of the counties in my district, Tyson Foods went out of business. They closed their processing plant, and 75 farmers, it could be give or take, but 75 farms went out of business because of that. And Tyson Foods, you have the agriculture industry and the farming industry with like whether it's cattle or whatever. A lot of times they'll have contracts, and so Tyson Foods had 3-year, 5-year, 10-year contracts with a lot of these farmers that were raising the chickens. And when they closed, the good thing that they did commit to paying every year, paying like a severance, paying the contracts out. So every year they'd pay them what the farmer would have made by raising it. But now a lot of those in that district are gradually going to be dropping off. So these farmers need help with grants to retool, to do other type of agriculture. And we need to bring new agriculture in, and we need to foster that, and we need to help these small farmers. And one of the things that I'm doing, I don't know all the answers. I'm never going to know all the answers. But what I'm doing, I'm going to the people and talking to the people. What do you need? And another one of my big parts of my platform is, look, this is something that I wanted to start doing town halls. Used to 15, 20 years ago, legislators did town halls all the time. Now you see a lot of them. They go to the party events. They go to the annual cookouts, the annual fairs. They show themselves. But I think we need to get down with the people and actually, like we're campaigning all year, you're already in office. You're a 2-year, 4-year, 6-year, whatever your term is. You don't need to start going to all the events and not doing anything. Just to show yourself, and that's all great. You need to do those things, but you need to be down in the district, talking to the people, seeing what they need, and in all the businesses and things I've been involved with, a lot of my best ideas came from the person that I never thought would give me the best idea. The worker on the ground, the person that's doing the job in the factory, or doing your groundwork, doing your phone calls. They would give me the best ideas, and many times I've talked to big business people, CEOs. And they all say the same thing. If they're successful, they say, we get our ideas, and we need to know what's going on the ground. We listen to our workers. And that's the same thing I feel with being a legislator. You need to listen to the people and get down on the ground and ask them what they need. And so the town hall thing is a big deal for me because I've worked in the Senate for 4 years. I know all the senators. There's a few new ones that have got elected last year that I'm not familiar with, but I have a good relationship with all these people, including the other side. And I think we need to do the town halls all year round and craft our legislation from that. So what I want to do every year, I'm going to go around, heavily go around the district, do town halls, talk to the farmers, talk to the business owners, and see what they need. And that's how I'm going to craft my legislation. I was going to craft it from what the people on the ground tell me they need. And also, when you do that, you have to. I'm a conservative. I'm a further right conservative. But look, I have to work across the aisle. I can't go in there and be the hard conservative that doesn't want to work with the Democrats because they're Democrats. Especially in Virginia, the state's makeup of the state Senate in the House is Democrat controlled. So what I want to, I try to not get into too much of how the sausage is made per se, but I think the voters need to start knowing some of these things. The voters don't know how the processes work. So when they hear a candidate or they hear a legislator come in and speak to them and they tell them all these grandiose things they're going to do for them, they need to know, if they're educated on some of the processes, they would know whether the people are telling the truth or they're not telling the truth. Because you can say you're going to do a lot of things, but if you work in the Senate or in legislation, you know pretty much whether you're going to get a bill passed or you have a chance to get it passed.
Shayne, you said something while you were talking, and it really hits home again, folks, to politics everywhere. You want to have these town halls, and you just said some of the best ideas come from the people. And I'm just going to say this to point out to folks that's so important, because even locally here we have an issue where our elected officials don't seem to be hearing the people, and staff's telling them what needs to be done, and things are being shoved through out of the sight of the people. And I think for you, as a potential the next senator representing District 10, to already understand the good ideas come from the people, because we're on the ground. We know what works in our community, what doesn't work, and I hats off to you to recognizing that up front, how important it is to take the input from the people. At the end of the day,
yeah, thank you.
that's who you work for.
And like I said, I feel 100% this is the people's seat. It's not my seat. It's never going to be my seat. I feel 100% that I need to be on the ground listening to the people. And one of the big benefits that I bring is I have worked in the Senate. I have been a legislative aide. I have senior legislative aide, a senior advisor. I know how things work and how things need to go to get things done. I know all the processes, including, I've had a great mentor, Senator Bryce Reeves. He's in leadership in the Virginia Senate. Great guy. I watched a lot of things that he has done, and I watch how he gets things done, how he works with the other side, how he works with the chairs of the committees to craft his bills to where he can get them passed. And another thing, because I've worked in the Senate, I have no learning curve. There's going to be some probably more people. Actually, a friend of mine just got into the race. I respect her. I've watched what she's done for the party. She's been very active for years and years in the party. Great person. She would be a decent senator, but and probably a good senator. But with me, I go in there. I have no learning curve. I do not have to build the relationships. I know how things work. You could bring even the best person that goes in there that's never worked in the Senate. They have a learning curve of everything, and that's a year or 2 years, and then you still have to work on building the relationships. So I have 4 years of relationships and some pretty good relationships on the other side of the aisle. So getting back to the crafting legislation and the bills and the town halls throughout the year, that's how I'm going to be crafting my bills throughout the year, and I'm going to be talking to the other side that I know are going to be on the committee chairs. And if a certain Democrat is a chair of a committee, I have to go talk to them and say, look, this bill, I want to get it passed. How can I word this? I know you're not going to go for when you have your relationships with them, you already know how they think. You already seen how they do their past legislation. You already see the bills that they veto or they kill in the committee. So you have to be willing to go and work on something and get it done, to get something done. So many times I see legislation go in. Great idea, should be passed, but it's not going to get passed the way it is because the other side or even people in your own party may not be able to take it at full face value. So, for instance, Senator Reeves in 2022 got the Veterans Tax Relief Bill passed, where Virginia does, they don't tax a certain percentage of retirement income for veterans because we want to start keeping veterans in the state. I worked with him on that bill pretty heavily. There's some significant things that I did with that in the process of working that bill, and I watched what he did. Well, we wanted 40%. 40% was the goal. Well, he knew that he couldn't get that passed, so you go to 10, you go to 15. We got a 10% passed. Well, yeah, you get it passed, and the people say, well, we wanted 40, and you didn't. You caved. You hear that all the time. If a good legislator works across the aisle, they caved. They're traitor a lot of times, especially your conservative base, especially if they're mad at the Democrats. And this goes the same on the other side. Democrats do the same thing. And I think we need to get back to working on the like I'm talking about, and like I've seen some of these better legislators do. You go and you get what you can get, and then later on you might be the one in control. You might be the one that's running the committees, and then you go to your 20% or your 30% or your 40%. But you have to get something on the books, and something's better than nothing. And so many times I see the conservative candidates that are out there, talking about I'm fighting for you and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Well, they put in the bills that, even if it's a good bill, it could have been watered down a tad to get it passed versus sticking to what you wanted and never getting anything. So that's a very big thing that I learned working with some of these senators is that, and the successful ones that get things done, is you have to work across the aisle. You have to have the relationship. You can't You can't go on social media berating the other side or berating a Democrat if you're a Republican or a Republican if you're a Democrat. You can't go and berating them and making them mad and then go into a committee the next week and expect them to be favorable to you. So I think we need to get back to common governance. The system was set up so nobody could be a dictator.
And Shayne, this is really important because I want to point this out. Virginia is a little bit different. Here in Florida, we are Republican-controlled House, Senate, Governor. It's Democratic-controlled House and Senate there. So working across the aisle is extremely important, and I think that's where you stand out from your opponent because, one of your opponents, and I'm speaking specifically of Amanda Chase. She is a hard right out there, gun-toting.
I'm fighting for you every day.
Yeah, it's just the rhetoric that we hear. There's no points behind it. It's just the rhetoric that the hard right conservatives want to hear. How is that working across the aisle? But your district, heavily Republican, but you're working with a democratically controlled state. It's incredibly important to have somebody like you that can work across the aisle, or your bills are not going to get passed.
Exactly.
I mean, that's it. And Debbie, by the way, thank you for tuning in. This is what you bring to the table that no other candidate brings, is being able to work across that table.
And having the relationships, even going in as a new senator, and that's what I want the people of this district to understand. Yes, there's estimated, last time I heard, they're estimating up to 10 people could get in this race. So there's going to be some fine people. There's going to be some people that I would say don't even let them near Richmond. But there's going to be a lot of fine people that have been in politics. There could be, in this type of arena, it's going to be, you could have a board of supervisors guy that's been in board of supervisors for years. You could have, a Commonwealth attorney. You could have, like my friend that just got in, heavily active in the party, a former chair of a committee.
Why is this a special election? And tell us a little bit about that.
So I think most people, if they've watched, especially conservative news, they've seen, even probably the liberal news now. You've seen the matchup between Bob Good and State Senator John McGuire. He's the senator in this district that I'm running in currently. So they had a very tough battle. I talked to a friend of mine that's high up in the party when they first started this. And I said, these guys, they're going at each other hard. And his exact statement was, one of them is going to be standing in a smoking hole and the other one's going to be obliterated. So this, and the interesting thing about this race is, I think that's, if I'm not positive, but I think it's plus 19 Republican in that 5th congressional district. Okay. So the primary is the election. There's no Democrat going to win, and we have that. And that's another part of the things I want to talk about later is, that kind of thing, the makeup of the Democrats and Republicans in different districts, and why you should even consider, working with a moderate Democrat in an area where you're never going to get a Republican. But this district, they beat each other to death, millions and millions of dollars spent, and John McGuire came out ahead, 350, 360 votes, 300 some votes, out of 62,000 votes. And the interesting thing about this district is those are probably mostly Republican Trump supporters. John McGuire, early on in the race, got endorsed by President Trump. So now you have a guy that's endorsed by President Trump, but you also have Congressman Bob Good, that's chair of the House Freedom Caucus.
Okay.
Bob was one of the ones that led and took charge to get McCarthy removed from Speaker of the House.
Okay.
With all the votes and all that. Well, so Bob is probably considered the most conservative, or one of the most conservatives in the House. So now you have conservatives in the district, 62,000, likely mostly Republican Trump voters, divided. So now you have 31 for Bob, 31 for John, plus 300 and some extra that John got. And that's very interesting to me because that's dividing the party. How can, you got a guy that the conservatives love because he's a devout Christian, heavily committed to his faith. He's done a lot of the things he said he was going to do when he goes to Congress. They didn't like McCarthy. A lot of the conservatives get rid of McCarthy. He helped get rid of McCarthy, and now they vote him out for a guy that is a state senator. He was a delegate before that, and I think mainly because he got the Trump endorsement. That put him over the top. For sure, that put him over the top. So this district is now heavily divided. There's a lot of back and forth still. There's a lot of people that say that they're going to write Bob Good in, and it's a very contentious situation. And what I want to do with this district is I want to come in and be the unifier. Look, that I've learned a long time ago from a lot of people in politics. You have a bad battle, you make each other mad, you say some bad things, but look, after it's over, it's over. You still have to work together. And I feel that that's what this is in this district. The race is over. There's still some, I think, some challenges that Congressman Good's doing, but basically the race is over. And so now it's time to get back to what are we going to do best for the district. We can't have half and half not liking each other. Look, the race is over. You voted for who you wanted to vote for, and the people spoke. And that's another thing. The people spoke. Close, yeah. Congressman Good did a recount. I think he gained 7 votes out of that, so he still lost the recount. So this race is over. Let's get back to coming back together, and that's one of the things I want to do. Let's get the people together. Let's do what we can do best for our district, and let's bring businesses in. Let's help the farmers. Let's help the workers, and let's get some stuff done and come back together. And because we can't stay divided, especially in that district. We just can't continue to do that.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about what you can bring to the district when we come back from this short break. Again, we're speaking with Shayne Snavely. He's running for Senate District 10 in the state of Virginia. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the next half hour. Again, we're speaking with Shayne Snavely. He is a Republican running in District 10 for the Senate seat in the state of Virginia. You can look more up about Shayne at Shayne, Shayne, Shayne4va.com. And what's interesting? He's really there to work for the people. He has a phone number. You can give him a call, 804-720-7910. If you have any questions for the campaign, you want to help out, go to their website, give them a call, and Shayne would love to talk to you. And we've been talking a lot about the race that's coming up. And as I understand it, Shayne, the date has not been set yet.
Yeah, we sort of got off track talking about the past race. The reason this is going to be a special election is because John McGuire defeated Bob Good for the primary, and this, of course, it's a heavily conservative district. So a Democrat is highly unlikely that a Democrat will win. So basically, he's going to be seated as a congressman, and so that seat will be vacated. And so the governor then will call a special election. There's several different things been put out of what's going to happen. I don't know exactly, but likely it'll be a fast special election, maybe 30 days of campaigning, maybe even a little longer. I hope it's at least that, to give people time to talk about their policies and their platforms and do some debates. I'm heavily looking forward to debating, especially one of the candidates. So yeah, it's going to be fast. The election, then the primary is going to be there. Then probably, I think last I heard, January 7th they'll do the election.
Okay.
So once they do the election, that senator will be senated.
Okay.
And that brings in another big part of why I'm the best candidate for the job. That senator is going to be dropped right in. And pre-filing for all your bills are done in December.
Wow. Okay.
So the senators will be dropped right into the Senate they better have some legislation crafted. They're going to be a lame duck senator for that year for sure.
So are you thinking of legislation already then?
Oh yeah, I'm already crafting all my legislation, because also in Virginia, the senator is limited to how many bills they can actually put in.
Okay.
So it'll be usually in the 20s. And once you get those bills submitted.
Well, Shayne, what are you working on? I mean, that's what your voters care about.
Farmers, getting some new industry in there, small businesses, working on tax reduction, working on regulations to help small businesses. Just going around the district and asking what people need. And most of the time, they're looking for a new industry for the farms. They're looking for helping with getting funding. They're looking for the small businesses, especially a lot of the restaurants and those type of businesses are heavily struggling. The food prices, the inflation prices, all these things are just skyrocketing. And what I'm doing, I'm in the process of crafting this. We're early on. We're a month and a half in. And mainly I've been around the small businesses, the farmers, and they need help. They need tax relief. They need regulation relief. They need new businesses to come into town. And a big thing, you can't have businesses, and I hear this is one of the big stories I hear, a lack of a workforce, a lack of an educated, trained workforce. And that's one of my other priorities is working to try to. One of my big things, I went to vocational school when I was a kid. We lost a lot of that. I mean, we don't have the good vocational schools in most places anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things I'm hearing from the businesses is that, if I'm going to bring a new company in here and a small business and run it, I have to look at the district and I have to look at the area that I'm going to bring the business in. I have to look what kind of workforce do I have that the hiring to be able to hire.
100%.
And so many times I'm hearing that I don't have a trained workforce to hire because people are coming out of high school with no vocational skills. If they don't go to college, they basically have no skills to go into the market. And I just talked to several people the other day on a Zoom, and we were discussing this, and they wanted to know what I thought about how this could be done. Well, look, you put in programs to start the vocational schools back up, and a lot of them have sorting classes. But back when we were young, I mean, you had auto mechanics, you had printing,
Right.
you had electronics, you had everything. So it's not necessarily we're talking about that, and they said, and it's not necessarily even the skill that they come out with, it's the work ethic that they come out by being in there and learning. They learn how to work and how to be effective in any business, and to be a good worker in the business that's hiring them. So it's easier to retool and train them if they come out with some kind of skill, but mainly the work ethic and the dedication to doing something that they like to do.
So obviously people are going to be very supportive of that. And that is one of your goals and your issues is to create new business and jobs. With that in mind, what kind of new businesses in particular? You're talking about trades. Let's talk. It's an agricultural community. What trades in particular do you think need a boost in the area?
What I'm hearing is just a lot of the district, of course, is rural. So when you get into a rural district, a lot of times they do not want big business coming in. They don't want to be the big city. They like the rural area. They like their towns the way they are. So you have to be careful with that also. And in a rural district like this, you're looking at also access to shipping, access to freight, access to trucking. So a lot of these districts aren't by a major highway that's feasible versus going to somewhere that right off the highway where the trucks can come pick it up. So you have to look at different kinds of diverse things, and I think a lot of small businesses and fostering small businesses and promoting small businesses and helping the people. In one place I'm familiar with, they have a lot of people. The economic development people have supported the very small business, the home-based businesses,
Right.
and helping the home-based businesses. And you got to get out with people to see what they're doing. That's another thing. You got to be out on the street seeing. And a person says, "Well, I got this business and it's growing, but I need this, this, and this." So you foster the businesses that are already there. I think is one big thing, because you hear a lot of times in the rural area they really just do not want the big companies coming in. They don't want that.
Well, they just had Tyson leave. I mean, they had something come in, and it really affects because a lot of people are depending on that. And all of a sudden, 75 farmers that were depending on that one big business it's now gone.
Right.
What an impact!
And you run into another thing on helping with this is when you have to have a workforce for any kind of small business. And what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to bring in small business manufacturing. It doesn't have to be a big corporation, but small business manufacturing. There's several businesses out there I'm looking at. One, as you know, we did a show on that, is the biochar.
Yes, very important.
A big future thing for the environment. It's something that Republicans and Democrats can get behind. It does a lot for the environment. It can be used in farming to capture phosphates and capture the bad chemicals that run off into the rivers. So you can mix this biochar with your land when you're doing your planting.
And these are good paying jobs that this would bring as well.
Yeah,
and this
good,
is a need around the country. Folks, I can tell you that we have huge water issues here in South Florida, but it's all around the entire country.
So you can do many things with this. Well, I'm talking to the company that wants to do this, and they want to they'd like to put a facility in every county in Virginia, and maybe more. And there's a spinoff of that, and actually Elon Musk is actually invested in this company. So there's some things I'm working with. I'm working with the top people on that, talking about bringing this stuff in. And what this does, it also helps the logging industry, because you have a lot of waste that stays out on the land when they do the logging. All this stuff can be turned into carbon. Biochar is basically carbon. It's a high-grade carbon, and depending on the company and the process, that depends on how high the quality of the carbon is. Well, this company is considered the top quality of biochar. And so what that does also, what they're doing with this is they're pulling all the recyclable materials from demolitions, from contracting, from houses, old pallets, all that stuff can be made into biochar. So they're diverting that they're working with the areas that they're already doing this, they're working with the landfills, and they're pulling all the wood and all this kind of stuff out of the landfills and turn it into good carbon. And a spinoff of that is they're also looking at doing another company that does a composting, a bigger composting operation, where then they'll pull food that goes into the waste system and into the landfills. They'll pull that, especially the bigger restaurants and things, they'll pull all this food waste and they'll put it into compost.
So, folks, you can see if you're in District 10 in Virginia, it's very important for your area to have economic viability and to have a candidate that understands that and is looking for new ways to bring in something that will bring some new financial avenues into the area, but still fits in with the culture and what the residents want.
Exactly. You can't.
Not every candidate brings that.
Yeah, exactly. You have to. You want to bring business in, but you want to bring business in that the people want, and then do that. You find the businesses that will fit well with that community, and also you talk to all the community leaders. That's the big thing. That's another thing I'm going to do. If I'm senator, I'm going to be the most active senator. I'm telling you. I've seen how this stuff works, and I know how the sausage is made. I know what goes on in Richmond. I know what kind of senator that they need. They need a person that's on the ground for the people, by the people, and listens to the people. And look, when I do something,
Amen to that.
When I do something, I'm going to go back to these community leaders and if I'm going to try to get an industry in a certain county or town. I'm going to go to those community leaders and I'm going to talk to them and ask them their input, because they're the ones that care. They're the ones that are on the ground, and they're the ones that know way more than I'll ever know. And so I'm going to be talking to these people and crafting this stuff and bringing businesses in that they feel is good for their district. And another thing with this, though, we have to go into housing, and we have to go into affordable housing, not low income housing. Affordable housing for people in these districts. That's another thing I hear across this district. I've talked to a lot of business people and other people. There's a lack of affordable housing. Look, if you're making $15 an hour, $20 an hour, $25 an hour, and you have a family and you have to pay for a one-bedroom apartment or a two-bedroom apartment, you're up in $1,200, $1,500, and this that would probably be considered good here. But in this district, you cannot afford $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 for a place to stay. And then if you go to buy a house, most of the houses they're telling me are being built are $400,000 or $500,000 houses. Well, your workforce, you have to have an educated workforce. So we have to work on that with the vocational schools. You have to bring businesses in that the people want in their district, and you foster that. You don't try to bring a business in that's going to tear the community apart, and you're going to have signs everywhere. Don't do it. And so you have to do that, but also you have to have that workforce, but you have to have housing for the people to be able to live. And I hear that all over the district, lack of affordable housing, and that's another thing that I want to push. How am I going to do it? I don't know. What legislation I'm going to do? I don't know yet. But when I get on the street and I start talking to these community leaders and I start doing these town halls, I'll find the answer. And that's the thing. I'm not ever going to say I know everything or I'm the best at it, and I can't lay out my 25, 26 bills that I would be putting in next year. But I can tell you by the time I go to put them in, I'll have one of the best lists of legislation for that district that they've ever had, and I'm committed to it. And I think if people hear me talk when I get on the street, they know that I'm a different person. Multiple times I hear people say, you're fresh, and we've been waiting on somebody like you. Even some of the better conservatives, they say, look, you're saying stuff that none of them say.
Well, Shayne, that you are a difference here, and I have a lot of different candidates that come into this room, and I get to talk to all of them. And one thing that I see differently right now as I'm speaking with you is that you actually are a candidate that says, I'm going to reach out to my district. I'm going to see what they need. You're not a career politician that's just out there for the power. And I swear there's so many people that get elected and they get addicted to the power that it brings and the doors that it opens to them. And they all of a sudden forget about the constituents they work for.
And I see that a lot. I see that with even some of the better conservatives. And I'm going to strive to not do that. I'm going to always be mindful of that, because that is something that you see, even some of the best of them. They get the power trip. They get beholden to their big donors. And especially when you're looking at, in my opinion, and I'm probably saying some things that some of my friend senators would rather me not say. But look, I don't need their vote. I need the people's vote. I mean, I'm good friends with many legislators in Richmond, and obviously because I've been there, and that's why I'm proclaiming that I have the relationships to get stuff done. But look, we need to start doing stuff that the people want and paying attention to the people. And if I'm beholden to all my different donors, well, I've only got 20 some bills to put in. How can I put in 10, 15 bills for my donors if it doesn't? Now, if it helps my district, that's one thing. But if it doesn't help my district, that's not my deal. District 10 first. And that's what we need to start doing.
And certainly you have one of your opponents, Amanda Chase, that I just want to bring her up, that she is a career politician at this point in my view. And she's running in this race, and she does have a lot of those donors she's asked for a lot of money from them. I think that's one of the issues that we wanted to bring out is, she's been in this spot where she's asking for people's support. She's gotten their support before, took in their campaign donations, and then you were an aide. You worked in that campaigns before. Where did that money go? How was it spent?
Well, I can tell you all the bad things that I've seen out of Amanda Chase. One thing that I can say that she doesn't have the big donors that a lot of people have. She's there's a few that have snuck in that she doesn't talk about, but for the most part, that's one of the probably the only things that I can say really that she's effective with is she does stick to putting in bills that her perceived voters want. The issue is it's all those run-on bills. Yes, what Senator Chase does, and what some other senators do or legislators, but what she does is all of her bills are crafted radical, never could be passed. And that's how she's gained a lot of grassroots support. Is the people think she's fighting for them? Because when you come out and you say I'm fighting for you, I'm pro God, I'm pro anti-abortion. The 2020 election was stolen. I'm for election integrity and all this stuff. Yeah, you can talk about that stuff, but that's all old news. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do for us that actually gets stuff done in our district? Yeah, if you're a good conservative, you're going to be pro-life. You're going to be pro-2A. You're going to be for the First Amendment. You're going to be America First. But that's any decent candidate. So quit telling us about that's what you are, and tell us what you've done. Because I've got a list right here. I've got Senator Chase's entire report card. Submitted 119 pieces of legislation, and that's so somebody, if I miss one, if it's 120 or whatever, let's say approximately, but 119, I think these are pretty accurate. 119 pieces of legislation in your 8-year career. 83 bills were killed in committee.
Wow.
All right. 11 bills were consolidated, which means they're rolled into another bill.
Okay.
12 bills were enacted, and one was vetoed. She had a 19.3% pass through. All right, so she spent thousands of dollars of her own money to run around the country saying she's going to do all these things for the people. She had a lot of the conservatives in her governor's race. She was heavily supported by conservative grassroots people. The hard-earned worker, the donor that gives you $10, $15, $20, $100. But yet, and they think she's great because she comes out, I'm fighting for you, I'm pro to it, I'm pro this, I'm pro that. But she didn't do anything.
It's the talking points again, the
yeah,
rhetoric.
And look, we can all come out and say that, but I think time now is for the come out and tell the people, look, I'm down for you. I'm down for this district. I'm all these other things, but that didn't get anything done for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in there and I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to the community leaders. I'm going to listen to the people on the ground. I'm going to try to get stuff done. I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm sincere about it. And I think everybody that listens to me anywhere I go, they know that I'm sincere. I'm not just BSing. I'm down for the people, and it's the people first. It's America first, and this is what we have to get back to. We have to get away from legislators like Amanda Chase, and there's other, and she's not the only one. But
no.
But look, we have to get away from the I'm working for you, I'm the best thing ever. But mainly all they do is just basically talk about themselves. Look, this is not about you. This is about the people on the ground. This is not about trying to gain more popularity because you're for banning abortion and you're for the Second Amendment. Matter of fact, Senator Chase is not for the Second Amendment and not for the First Amendment, and there's a lot of things that she's done that would prove that. But the voter doesn't know. So one of the things I don't want to get into, all of her bad things, bad actions and misdeeds. There's a lot of things we could hit on just some quick topics. But look, what I ask the people is, it's not just her. It's any politician or any candidate. When a candidate's coming and talking to you and speaking, and they're up on stage, don't just listen to them and say, yeah, you're great, you're for this and you're for that. how about actually looking at what they've done, or looking at what they've done in their past, or looking at their policies? Because we have to start listening to the candidate, and then and vetting them and fact checking them. Because a lot of times you'll find out that the candidate that's up there telling you all these things is actually even lying to you, and you hear that all the time from the grassroots. Politicians are all liars and cheaters. Well, if you think that, then why is your politician the only one that's not a liar and cheater? How about fact checking them too?
You absolutely need to fact check. You need to look at their records. I'll bring up Amanda Chase. She was not a member of any committees in 22 or 23. They were all taken away from her, bit for bit, and for some different reasons we can go into a little bit. Somebody that makes a lot of noise, but you don't accomplish anything, and that's where, Shayne, you're saying, I'm that candidate. You're listening to the people. You're that person that has worked across the aisle. I want to go into some comments here on Facebook. You have some excited people about your race for sure, and I want to talk to some of them. We're nearing the end of our first hour. We're with Shayne Snavely. He's running for Senate District 10 on the Republican ticket in the state of Florida. But Tracy said, working together is the only way to get bills passed. I think your constituents recognize that. Adair, he's the only candidate that talks about current needs instead of things they did when COVID was around. People are ready to move forward. He will take real issues of the people and work with the other side to come up with the proper writing of bills so they can get out of committee and to the floor for voting. If the bills don't get out of the committee, they don't do any good for anybody. He's absolutely right about that, right?
Yeah, and that's, working, a lot of the things that I talk about and the things that I want to change and not be that senator of any of these things is because I've seen what happens. I know how the sausage is made, and the voters don't know. So here, what I'm asking of them, this is normally a 4-year seat. Well, John McGuire has already used a year of that up. All right, so it's going to be a special election. You only got to give me 3 years. Give me 3 years, and we always talk about term limits. And I'm all for term limits, but the problem is you're highly unlikely to ever get politicians to kill their own job. All right, but
we see that over and over.
But I'm a believer that we already have term limits. The term limits is at the ballot box.
Right.
If you give me 3 years, don't give another politician that's your local politician or something. Don't give them. Don't send them here that they have a learning curve. They have no relationships. Send a guy there for 3 years that can go on the ground one, and day one on the ground, and actually do something for you. And that's something that I can tell you, there's no other candidate going to be able to do that. They're just not going to be able to do it because you have to have work there. And to work there, I see how the sausage is made, and I'm going to start talking to the people and telling them how it's done, so they understand that when a politician comes and tells them something, they're going to say, that's not true, because that ain't how it works. And that's what they need to know.
And Shayne, tell us, you've told us a little bit more. You've been an aide, you've seen the sausage being made. What exactly does that mean to the common person? Okay, Shayne, so you have somebody that's already been a senator. You have people that are involved in politics. What makes Shayne stand out differently that he is going to get that sausage made for the district?
Well, the person that's already been a senator is a failed senator. That's why she's what you call carpetbagging to a new district, because she lost her primary and she lost her Senate seat because she was ineffective in Chesterfield. And one of the things she's talking about as well, Chesterfield became too liberal, and I moved out of there and got, because of all this, and I'm coming here. Well, I sort of say, we always talk about.
And she lost her seat before, right? I mean, she lost her seat,
yeah.
So now she's moving to a new district to try and get back to that.
And remember, she got all these bills that she got killed, nothing done in the last 4 years, no committees in the last 2 years, censured, the only second senator ever in Virginia history to get censured, and calls it a badge of honor. Yet
she was the second in history.
In Virginia history to
ever be censured. Amanda Chase.
And she calls it a badge of honor to her conservative base that believe in her, because they don't understand what that means. This censure, and she goes around saying that it was illegal censure because she says that the president of the Senate said it wasn't by the rules, but the president was overruled by the majority of the senators, and she was censured. She wasn't censured she says because I went to January 6th. That wasn't the case. There's audio. You can go on there, and there's a website that has every single senator's statements. They said she lied on the Senate floor. She lied to their face. She was disrespectful to Capitol Police officers, thinking she was something special. They just so many things they talked about, but the people don't know that she wasn't censured for January 6th. That was one of the articles on the list, but there was many other things. Unbecoming of a senator, and just not working with anybody, burning the bridges, berating people on the internet, her fellow colleagues, and then going back the next day and saying that, that she wants to work with them. So we need to get back to really just actually having somebody in there that wants to work, to do the things that the people want, and get things done. And the reason I'm the best candidate, we can say it all day long. Look, I've been there. I know how to get the legislation done, and the people need to know that it's a very complicated process. As a senator, you put in a bill to legislative services with a bunch of lawyers. They craft your bill. You might bring it back 2 or 3 times because it wasn't what you wanted, and finally you get it. You drop that bill. It goes to a committee. That committee has to vote on it and get it out of committee. They might put it into a subcommittee, which is easier to kill it, and then the subcommittee will recommend it to the committee whether to pass it or kill it. It has to get out of that committee, then it has to go to the Senate floor. Then it has to go, if it's passed, it has to go to the House, and all this same process again with the House. The House might go ahead and put an amendment to it. If they put an amendment to it, then it has to come back to the Senate. The Senate has to agree to the amendment. And so this is a complicated process. And then that bill has to go to the governor, and you have to hope the governor signs it. So the people need to understand you have to have somebody that knows this process, knows the people. I mean, I know the governor well. I was on the campaign trail with the governor when he was running. I know the lieutenant governor, and I consider them friends. I know the attorney general. I spent the entire campaign trail while they were running with them. Like I said, I consider them friends, and I know them. I have a relationship with them. I can talk to them, and the same with the other side of the aisle. I'm friends with the Senate Majority Leader. I have a relationship with him. I was just say friends, but I have a good relationship with him. I have a good relationship with the Democrat caucus chair. I have a good relationship with the Senate Pro Temp, the number one in the Senate that takes over the Senate if the Lieutenant Governor Winsome is is not there that day. She takes over. I have the ability to go talk to these people, and I know how it's done. And those things are something nobody's going to be able to do.
Folks, this is really interesting. Shayne Snavely, Republican, running in District 10, Senate State, Virginia. Shayne, you're a different candidate, in my opinion, because you have been behind the scenes. Not very often. I don't know if I've ever had a candidate come through that was an aide that said, hey, I need to get into this seat and make things happen for the people, because you see what happens sometimes when people get elected and they're not effective. You know what it takes to be effective. And folks, we're going to talk a lot more about that in the next half hour. In the next hour, we're going to come back with Shayne Snavely running for District 10, Republican in the state of Virginia. We'll be right back. We've got so much more to talk about. Thank you. Welcome back to the second hour. We still have with us Shayne Snavely. He is running for the Virginia State Senate District 10 on the Republican ticket. Shayne's kind of a special gem because he has worked behind the scenes before for quite a few years here, and he was one of those people behind the scenes that said, you know what, we really need somebody that's going to work for the people to push these bills through, to push what they need, not maybe what is in the best interest of leadership somewhere else, or maybe somebody's ego. He wants to work for the people. In fact, he said, I believe in a government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. This is the people's seat. It belongs to you, and I will be there to represent you and do what is asked of me. Number one priority will be District 10, and my legislation will be crafted to ensure it benefits the people in my district. We need to explore promoting small businesses and small business manufacturing groups into the district. Reducing regulation and taxes on small businesses will be one of my priorities. So you can hear his priorities are the people he will be working for, the actual district. And before we go into a lot more topics that matter to you folks, and it's interesting for me, I'm down here in South Florida, the issues that are impacting you really impact all of us. So I think it's just important to really get a good candidate in, no matter where you are. But this is a fascinating show for all of us here in South Florida to even be listening to Shayne and what he's bringing, because we have the same concerns. Debbie, Shayne has heart, and talking about Amanda Chase, all she does is ask for money from her donors over and over again. Tracy says, commitment to the community is exactly what we want to hear. Barbara, this is a different topic here. You deserve a victory lap after the City of Stewart and Board of County Commissioners meeting this week. We had a lot of local issues here with funding for a private corporation on a taxpayer dime, and we did have a win this week, and that's what it takes. Adair, he supports teachers and public schools. There is a lot of great things happening in schools, but you will never hear that from another candidate. We want to keep what is working well and let Shayne Snavely know where help is needed. And speaking of that, Shayne, let's delve delve into that issue a little bit more with the schools. I know you're talking about parental rights right now here in Florida, and I think up there as well. Cell phones are a big issue for kids bringing them to school. So let's talk a little bit about your stance on the parental rights.
Yeah, so I'm friends with a lot of teachers. I've talked with a lot of them. I asked them, and that's like I said, this is going to be my platform all the way through. Is talking to the people in each of these industries, and we need to support law enforcement. We need to support our teachers. I mean, look, without those two, and our medical EMS and all of our medical people, our doctors, our nurses, we need to start really holding those high on the priority list of, look, without these people, we can't survive. And teachers are a big part of what I want to do. I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and been lifelong teachers and retired teachers, and they tell me a lot of things that are going on. As you know, or may or may not know, the governor of Virginia did an executive order that banned cell phones in schools, in the class. That was starting to be implemented. Then you had the Georgia shooting. So then we all know that, parents were scared because they couldn't get a hold of their kids and all these things. And so that brought the topic back up in Virginia that, well, we want to have our kids, we want to be able to get a hold of our kids. We want to be able to do this, we want to be able to do that. Well, yeah, but guess what? They still need to be taught. So there's a balance, I think, there. Do I know the perfect balance? No, but I'm getting a lot of ideas from the teachers, and one of the things that I think need to be done to set it. And the parents do have a lot of concerns. Look, these children nowadays, these kids, they had a phone when they're a year old, 2 years old.
That's right.
So this is part of them now.
It's a new world.
So now to take it completely away is it's going to be a big adjustment. But look, they're supposed to be learning in school. And if you have, from some of the teachers I've talked to, if you have the majority of the kids obeying, not having their phones out, leaving them where they're, and all that, but if you have a 2 or 3, then they disrupt the whole class. So something has to be done. What's the right answer? Some of the answers I'm getting is, look, you don't have to put them in your locker because then you don't have access if you would have a shooting or an emergency or something, but keep them in your book bag. Keep the volume down. Do not bring them out in class unless there's no emergency. If there's an emergency, you go talk to the teacher and you go take care of that outside the class. And if you bring the phone out, from what I'm hearing, the suggestions are if they bring the phone out, it goes to the teacher's desk. The second time, the parents have to come and get it. And we all know that once parents have to get involved, a lot of times that won't happen again. But I think that will be a better answer. One of my retired teacher friends said, what about when we had lunch boxes and we brought our lunch boxes to school, and you remember we all had a little place we put our lunch box. Well, what's the difference in that and a cell phone? Because the reason was, if you have your lunch box at what she said, you have your lunch box at your desk, you're going to get into your snacks, and it's going to disrupt the class. So what do? We put our lunch boxes over at a certain place. So what's wrong with putting your phone in a bag? You know where it's at. You can grab it if you have an emergency. So I'm not saying leave the phone in the locker. But I'm also not saying put all your phones in a box when you come into class, because then you have mix-ups in phones, you have stolen phones, and all these other things. So we have to have some kind of common sense rules that we have to develop that satisfies the parents, satisfies the teachers, and allows them to do their job. And I think it's a process now that's just got started. The governor's, this hasn't been in effect for very long. We're going to, as usual, we're going to go through a lot of ups and downs and try to get this done. But I think if we work together, and as a legislator, I'll be, like I said, working with the teachers, talking to them what they need done. And if there's something that needs to be done that will be a common sense bill, I'll put that bill in. And I'll try to work with the other side to craft it to where it'll get passed. And parental rights. Look, Terry McAuliffe, I think, pretty much lost the election to Governor Youngkin when he said the parents don't have a right to be a part of their children's education.
Wow.
That was in a debate. All right, well, that was a big deal. And parents of all walks of life in all parties, I think Democrats alike, they need to have be able to know what's going on in their children's lives in school.
Absolutely.
If a child goes to the counselor and they have an issue, a lot of current policies are that parents not called because it might cause more trouble at home, or if you have an abusive parent, one of the excuses I'm getting, well, if you have an abusive parent, then the child, goes home and has to deal with this. No, look, we've never done this in past history. The parents they're the child. They own the child. That's their kid. The state doesn't own that child, and so the parents need to be involved. They need to be told when there's an issue with their child so they can try to correct it. And we also we need to start fostering more parent involvement. I think over the years we've lost a lot of parent involvement. What about the PTAs we used to have? All these things where the parents were really involved in their child's lives. I think we need to foster some things to help get that back on track. But look, parents, the overall thing is parents need to have a right and to be in charge and tell the school what they want their child to do and not to do. And if their child has an issue, that child and goes to the counselor or goes to the office, that never should be hidden from the parents. Whether it's transgender stuff, that's a hot topic for conservatives in Virginia. A child will the transgender actions, they're changing their names. Wanting to have sex changes, all these things, the parents a lot of times are not told. It's kept from the parents. And one instance in my district actually is Sage's Law, where the child thought she was supposed to be a boy, changed her name, went to the counselor, was having a lot of issues. She went to the counselor a couple times. They actually directed her to I don't know exactly what the website was, but an alternative like a LGBTQ or a transgender website. The parent never knew about this. The only way the parent found out is one day the child came home and a Paul pass or something fell out of the book bag with this boy's name on it, and they asked, "What is this?" That's how they found out.
Wow.
And come to find out, this had been going on for a long time in the school, and the school never told the parents. This kind of stuff has to stop. This kind of stuff, I don't see why it's just a conservative movement and a conservative idea. I don't see why it's not everybody. You have to be involved in your child's life in school. You have to be in charge of all of those things. The school doesn't dictate it. And my stance is parental rights are 100%. And anything I can do for legislation, anything that comes across my way to have to vote on it, it'll always be on the side of the parent. Always.
100%. As a parent with a child in school, I relate to 100% of what you're saying. We're having the same issues here in Florida. We actually just had the cell phone issues passed as well. They're turning their phones in or keeping them in their book bags, or they turn them into a box. But there's an issue there, as you said, with making sure the phones didn't get messed up. The whole issue with transgender identity and not telling the parents, that's a really big issue you just touched on. And 100% parents should absolutely know what's happening with their children. What about down here, we had Title IX. Transgender or a boy that identifies as a girl in sports. Are you having the same issues up there? What's the stance?
We are. There's actually been some issues with that. Look, my stance on that is always going to be that's unacceptable. How and when did that ever become acceptable? That if you're a boy and you decide you're a girl and you go play in girl sports, that you don't have an advantage. I can't
even believe we're having the discussion.
I'll say it. What sane person can say that that's a fair?
Right.
That's a fair competition.
Right.
We need to stop it. We need to vote against it every time we have a chance, and do the best we can to combat that. And a lot of that's coming from the left. Like I said, I try to have good relations with the left, but some of this stuff I can never agree with. Never agree with.
So let's talk about that for a second here. You said the left. You're right. There's a far left contingent out there, but you're talking about working across the aisles. There's moderate, right? There's moderate Republicans. There's moderate Democrats. What do you see as the makeup in Virginia?
Well, what I see, I've been all over the country with politics over the last 4 years, as you know. Spent a lot of time down here. Run some races for other people. What I'm seeing across the country is, we have to work together. That's the way the system was designed. We have to, and I do feel I've been all over the place with every kind of politician, from the top to the bottom. I got lucky. I started at the top with the governor's race. That's why I got so much knowledge. I was dropped right in at the top, where normally you have to work your way up to these things.
Okay.
Very fortunate with that. One thing I'm fortunate to have worked for Senator Chase, even though we have a lot of issues now. Had a lot of opportunity to learn and made me who I am today as far as a politician, if you want to call myself a politician.
What's motivated you to run to represent the people?
And I saw a statement a while back. I can't think of it exactly, but when you work for somebody, say it's a job or say it's a mentor, you can either learn how wonderful all the things they do and want to do those things and learn how they operate, like some of the senators I've worked with, and you can also learn how you don't want to be. And working for Senator Chase, like I said, we don't want to dwell on it, but working for her showed me all the reasons why she was ineffective, the things that she did made me want to run in politics because, look, she's supposed to be a strong conservative. Nothing even close to a real conservative. You know, a lot of people call people rhinos.
Right.
Republican name only. Well, here's the funny thing. Republican name only in establishment. You're an establishment. So how long do you have to be in office before you're considered establishment? Is only everybody else and not you? You know, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot of things that I don't want to be and don't want to do, and that's why I'm running, because I think I can go into that Senate. I know I can go in that Senate. I can get things done. I can work across the aisle. But one of the main things I see across the country and in Virginia, that there's certain people on the far right and the far left that have very, very strong opinions, and then it starts coming to the center on both sides. We need to work with all those people, even whether they're considered radical on either side or not. We need to work with all those people. But also, I find that the majority of the people are more in the, let's not say the center, but we all start coming together from both sides, and we all have the same issues. And traveling around the world, I've done a lot of that and spent a lot of time in some places. And you know, one thing always came back to me in politics is everybody wants the same thing. You can go to China, you can go to Russia. You don't might not like their government, but if you hang out with the people, they're just like us. They all want to have a chance to be prosperous. They want their children to be safe. They want their children to have education, and they want the government. Most of the time, they want the government out of their life,
Right.
as much as they can. And so here we have the same type of people. Everybody, I mean, they want to be successful. They want to have things. They want to have their children be successful and leave the world better than they left it for their children. And
Amen.
so with that, you can work with everybody, and we all have what you do. You find the common ground. I'm never going to agree with certain things that the Democrats do in the Senate. I'm not going to agree with some of the things the Republicans do in the Senate. But there's common ground on all kinds of things. And that's another thing I always talk about is, look, people think expect you to be perfect all the time. And I see a lot of times on either side of the aisle, I see a lot of your base say, well, if you do something wrong, you can do 9 things right. If you do the one thing wrong, they beat you to death about
That's
it.
right.
Well, what about the 9 things I did right? We're never going to agree on everything.
Right.
And that's the same way as working across the aisle, working with Democrats or independents or anybody. Look, we're never always going to see the same things all the time, but there's a lot of things we do see the same thing about.
And sometimes you have to compromise so that you get something that's beneficial for your district and people. Sometimes it's compromise.
Well, I mentioned the veterans tax bill that Senator Reeves passed, and he wanted 40%. He didn't get 40%, but guess what? He got something. And what happens when the Republicans? It always the pendulum always swings.
Sure
So what
does.
happens when the Republicans become in charge? Then you put that bill in and you get a 20% or you get a 30%. So the idea is to get something and then build on that. And it could be abortion. If you're a anti-abortion advocate, and you hear a lot of times, well, we want full-on abortion. Well, guess what? Even Arizona, with all the Republicans, couldn't get that passed.
Right.
So that's not going to happen. So let's get real with it instead of trying to convince our base that I'm going to get that done. No, you're not going to get it done. But there's things we can work on. Let's get a 20-week. And then people say, well, 20 weeks, that's almost nothing. Yeah, it's nothing, but it's something.
That's right.
And then let's go to 15, and then let's try to go to 12.
Right.
And I see so many times, especially in conservatives, they want us to do it all right now. But they don't understand, like I said, how the sausage is made. You get something versus nothing. And a lot of times, like I said, you'll hear them say you're a traitor because you didn't get the full-on abortion ban. Well, I wasn't ever going to get that, but I got this. And so we can work across the aisle with everybody. We all think the same. And also, you have to respect the other side. Because in dealing with him and spending a lot of personal time with a lot of senators, Democrat senators in the Virginia Senate, I spent a lot of time with them at events, at receptions, and things like that. I know how they think. And, they believe just as hard. That's what we have to understand on both sides. They believe just as hard in their things that they want to do, in their beliefs, as we do.
Sure do.
And so they're not just crazy. I mean, they really believe these things just like we believe our things. And so we have to understand that, understand how they think, and be willing to work with them. But first, you have to understand them and respect them. You can't disrespect them and never get. If we keep disrespecting each other, we're never going to ever get anything done, because all it does is make us enemies. And that's one of the big things I learned is that, and that we're all really the same in a lot of ways. But also, you have to respect the other side, and you have to understand that no, they're not crazy. Actually, some of the senators, one of what they would consider one of the more radical senators has been in the Senate over 40 years, or close to 40 years. Well, evidently she's doing something right for her district because they keep electing her, right?
That's absolutely right.
So it goes both ways. We have to respect the other side, and we have to be able to work with them. But we also have to understand all of our common things that we have that we can work on together, and that's where you get things done.
One of my favorite analogies is the American eagle. True of any bird, but our national symbol, the American eagle, it takes a left wing and a right wing to fly. Let's talk about immigration. We were talking off air a little bit. I was very surprised. We have a real issue here with an immigration issue in Florida. We have all these, I mean, we're a peninsula. We have water all around. But Virginia is or trying to be a sanctuary state?
There's an article came out that Virginia is a sanctuary state. I think it's the same in most places. You have certain areas, especially in your more liberal areas, you're going to have more acceptance of not colonized and not prosecuting illegal immigrants and just not doing anything. And I think we need to, as a state, I don't know the exact issues that are going on there yet. I'm getting ready to get up to speed on that, but I can tell you it's the same everywhere. Look, it's not just illegal immigration. Illegal immigration, we already know, fosters human trafficking, child human trafficking, drug trafficking. We have to close our border. We already know that. Anybody with common sense knows if you don't have a border, look, every other country, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country.
Right.
Right. So when is it acceptable just to let people come in? And with that comes all the bad things. Yeah, there's a lot of good people that come in. And I can see the Democrat and the liberals side of that these people are coming from a place where they have nothing and they want the American dream. Okay, yeah, but there's still a process. We're still a country. You can have the sympathy, but look, we have rules. And we have things that need to be done to be accepted in our country. And if you don't do that, then, yeah, you're an illegal immigrant and you need to go to the right processes to get in. And we need to shut that border down. And like I said, anybody knows that. Look, what world, when you lose 100,000 people a year or better to fentanyl overdoses, and the majority of us coming in from the southern border,
right.
What world will we not be in a world war? Or what world will we not bomb the crap out of the other country if they killed 100,000 of our people? But yet we do it year after year after year. Nothing's done about it, and we just keep staying in the same place. Look, and a lot of Republicans are responsible for this too, because it seems like we have a lot of people that just don't want this problem fixed. Remember, you told me one time with some environmental stuff we were working on. You told me about an environmental group that I could talk to about helping get some stuff done.
Right.
But you said they might not want to get it done. Because remember, if you solve the problem, you don't have anything to run on. You don't have anything to raise money on.
No.
If there's no southern border problem, there's no immigration problem. What are a lot of these people going to run on? Because that's what they run on. All right.
Yes.
If
you solve the problem, you don't have a fundraiser anymore.
Right. So this is not just a Democrat problem. This is also a Republican problem. We need to get down to the nitty gritty with this, and we need to fix this, because, like I said, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. Everybody knows that, and you cannot allow thousands and thousands of our citizens and our youth, especially, to die from overdoses when that could have been solved. A lot of it could have been solved.
We have a huge fentanyl issue here that has raised so much ever since the border's been opened as well.
And I always go back to in what world would a terrorist organization or another country kill 100,000 of our people and we wouldn't have demolished the whole country?
Right.
Yet we just continue to let this happen.
It's absolutely insanity. Moving on with issues that are important to your district, that was certainly a big one, but also lower taxes. It seems like they're always going up, and people are really taxed right now. Shayne, inflation has hit Americans so hard. Everything's went up. I don't know what it is in Virginia, but we have down here horrible insurance cost as well for our automobiles, for our homes. You mentioned it, affordable housing. Our pocketbooks are being hit from every direction, and the government still puts its hand out and wants to raise taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hear that. I just talked to some business owners in the district, and that's one of the things I talked about. Taxes and inflation are killing them. I talked to one lady that owns a restaurant that's been there. The restaurant's been there, I don't know, 30, 40 years. She worked there as a waitress for years, and she ended up buying the place. And she told me that she made more money as a waitress than she does owning the place, and she works twice as long.
Oh, my goodness.
Because of the inflation, the cost of food, the cost of the taxes, all these different things are just beating her to death. She said, I really actually made more money being a waitress. And I'm working twice as long, or 4, 5, 6 more hours. And when you hear it, you hear the despair. And so we're losing this battle. We have to start controlling our taxes. We have to do that. We have to control spending, and there's another reason why I want to go to the Senate. I want to talk. We had on the list. I wanted to talk about donation money and the hardworking person's money. Well, we need the tax money is the people's money.
It sure is.
All right. When we have budgets, that's the people's money. That's not our money. We need to start looking at how we're spending that and be we talk about this all the time and nothing gets done. But I'm going to be the guy that goes in there and I'm going to cause some waves. Some of my Republican colleagues aren't going to like me because look, I'm not going to be the conservative, further right leaning conservative that I am that goes in there and tries to burn the house down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and try to get things done. And I'm going to try to do them in a way that I can get them done. And a guy told me one time, he says, your best thing that you do, he says, you say what you're going to want to do, you say how are you going to do it, and then you say how you think you can get it done. And those are the things. I'm telling you what I want to do. I want to work with the people. I want to get things done. I want to go to that district and talk to the local officials all across that district. I want town halls. I want to talk to the business owners. I want to talk to the people on the ground. I'm going to craft that legislation, and I'm going to get in there and try to get it done. And I'm always going to be mindful of that. And that's something you really never hear about from politicians. They always tell you, they talk about themselves a lot, for one. They talk about what their past stuff they've done. How about what you're going to do now? Let's talk about the future stuff. Winsome Sears said in her speech that she's now running for governor, she said, move forward. We need to move forward, not the past. You hear that a lot of times from my competitor in this race, my number one right now. She always talks about the past, what she did in the past. What are you going to do for us now? We don't want to hear about you and your accomplishments that were really non-accomplishments. You didn't get anything done in the Senate. The last 4 years, you got nothing done. Like I said, it's not just her. It's a lot of these people. Look, talk about what you're going to do for us in the future. Get in there and get it done. And one of the best things to talk about the taxes, I was on a Zoom meeting with the Attorney General a couple weeks ago. And one of the things the Attorney General wants to do is overhaul the Virginia tax code. He said it's over 100 years old. That's one of the best things I've heard come out of this administration as far as taxes since I've been there. Yes, it needs to be overhauled. I mean, we need to start looking at this across the board. We need to look at local taxes. And we need to start cutting these things. But in order to do that, we have to cut spending. We have to hold our elected officials accountable for what they spend. But the bigger thing that always comes back to me with voting, with taxes, with who gets in office, all the issues, the parental rights stuff, the immigration stuff, it all boils down to the people on the ground, the voters, have to start getting more engaged in what's going on in their lives. They have to start getting more engaged in what their politicians are doing. They have to start looking at politicians, I say like me, that are going to be down for them, that's going to be their seat. I'm going to go in there and do what they ask me to do. Even if it's against, look, if I might have a belief that's different than what some of my constituents want to do. That's tough because my constituents asked me to do it. They elected me to do what they want to do, not what I want to do. And, so we have to get back to that. And everything, this whole conversation, everything should go back to, look, the voters have to start getting informed. They have to start looking at who they want in office. They had to have somebody they believe in that's actually telling them something, not just a bunch of bull. And if they do that and they start understanding what the person's about, what the person's doing, and they start understanding the actual process of how things are done, I think that we'd be much better off because, they don't know what taxes are too bad or how to curb taxes. They don't know when a good one is anytime government wants to raise some tax that's controversial, what do they always do? Make it for the kids.
Of course.
It's going to go to the kids somehow. It's going to go to the schools somehow.
Gets wrapped into something else that has to be passed. Shayne Snavely, he's a Republican running for District 10 in the state of Virginia Senate. Shayne, I think it's really important. You touch on it a lot. People need to be informed. I'm going to bring up, even if it's uncomfortable, a little bit about some of the issues with your opponent, Amanda Chase, because I think people need to really know who they're voting for. So when we return from the break, we're going to talk about some of those issues that's happened in the past. You're very fortunate, people. You're able to look at somebody's record, and now you're able to decide. So we'll be right back just right after this break. Welcome back. This is a special edition. Shayne Snavely came all the way down from Virginia while he's in town. I made a special extra hour for him. Thank you, Mark Breckbill, again for giving me your hour to use. Really important. I wanted to have this opportunity to really talk with Shayne and take 2 full hours because this is a really important race in Virginia, and it's an interesting race for us here in South Florida because you have a lot of the same issues, and it goes to show how important it is to reach out to the candidates candidates. Make sure they're really representing the people. And it's interesting to me that no matter where you are in the country, a lot of the issues are the same. And it's so important that we vet our candidates. We've talked about that so much. And, in doing so, one of Shayne's opponents is Amanda Chase. He used to work for her as an aide. But, folks, you got to really ask yourself, why is this person running? What is their record? And in Amanda Chase's case, you're able to look up her record and look at some of the issues that came up around her. In May of 2024, she was charged for assaulting a volunteer to Chesterfield GOP elections, paid her lawyers $5,000, and there was evidence to convict, but she took a plea. And it's just, you got to look at these things. Multiple lawsuits have been filed, approximately $30,000 worth. All the lawsuits have failed, though. And again, Shayne mentioned it previously that she's the second senator in the history of Virginia to be censured. In December of 2020, filed a lawsuit against the Republican Party to get a primary versus a convention-style election. That was almost $10,000. So let's talk about this a little bit, Shayne. I mean, you were in the trenches, and I think this is one of the things that motivated you to run and be a representative of the people.
Yeah, and that's an interesting story to start out with. Is Senator Chase is going around saying that she was the first to announce, telling her supporters, I was the first to announce I was running this district. No, she wasn't. And she's putting this perception out.
And she just moved to the district. You've been living here.
Yeah, carpetbagging, what you call it. And so one of the things she's saying is, that she's the first to run, and now she's going to go say that I'm only running because I'm a disgruntled employee, and this is a common thing with her. She's had probably 14 or more legislative aides in the time that most senators have 2 or 3. Everybody that has quit, it's always they were fired because they couldn't do their job, or they're disgruntled when they start exposing some of the stuff that she's done. So I wanted the people to know that. Look, I'm not running against her. I was running before I knew she was ever going to move in that district. I had decided I was going to run. I've been living in Amelia. I have a place in Southwest Virginia, but I've lived in Amelia at least 70% of the time or more for a long time, and then mainly for the last couple of years I've been there since I've been working in the Senate. I moved there to work in the Senate. That's where I rented. And so I was already running in that race, and so it's not that I'm running against her because I'm disgruntled. No, I was running because I thought I was the best candidate before I ever knew she was running.
Well, it's interesting. Maybe when you filed, is what prompted her to run against you. I mean, she did file a protective order against you that was removed.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it was never served. It was a temporary, and she did that actually because see. I've got a thing with Amanda Chase. She likes to try. She says she's for the First Amendment. She's in the Second Amendment. But if she has a chance, she actually uses red flag laws, uses protective orders or other things like we talked about in another episode, where she actually tried to have Susan Beals, the commissioner of the Department of Elections that was appointed by the governor. She tried to have her removed and pulled her out of the block of appointees being voted on, and basically just talked bad about her and. Because she had worked for her 7 years ago and she quit. So anybody that quits Amanda Chase is usually a disgruntled employee that couldn't do their job, and she fired them, and that's the common theme. One thing I would like to say about this race, though, is it's interesting. We'll have all the other opponents, but Amanda Chase in particular, it's very interesting. I think people should start asking the question, why my legislative assistant and my senior person on my campaign worked for Amanda Chase for 5 years and worked for her up until she lost her seat last year. Why is she running my campaign? Why is she supporting me? Why is my campaign advisor, why was she also a legislative aide for Senator Chase in 2021? And why is she working on my campaign? Why are majority of the people that ever worked for Amanda Chase supporting me, either endorsing me, supporting me, or volunteering or working behind the scenes because they have moved up into higher levels of the government and they can't actually outwardly support me? So I think that's a big telling thing. If everybody that's worked for Amanda Chase is either working for me or helping me with my campaign because they believe in me, that's a big deal, and I think that's something voters should be looking at. There's a common denominator here, and it's usually when you have a lot of issues and you have a lot of turnover. A lot of times you hear their employer say, well, I fired them because of this, I fired them because of that. Well, maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're the one that they can't work for. And I find it interesting that several of the people that have worked for her in the past have moved to pretty good positions in whether the governor's office or chief of staff for Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears worked for Amanda Chase. Commissioner of the Department of Elections worked for Amanda Chase. So one thing I think the common thing is you move up after you've worked for her because they figure everybody knows her, and they figure if you work for her, you can work for anybody.
And folks, this is why it's really important to vet your candidates. There will be other people entering this race, but it's really important. Just look at who you're voting for and why. Look at their records, especially if they've already held office. Just do a Google search. You'll be surprised how much will come up with just that information. So, Shayne, let's talk a little bit more about some really important topics. DOC overhaul. Tell me about that.
Department of Corrections overhaul is what that is, and I've not heard any. I've talked about this before, not heard any legislators talking about it. I worked for the Department of Elections when I got out of the military, and so I'm familiar with how that operates. I'm familiar with the ins and outs of. I spent a lot of time talking to inmates. I was one of the guys that could go talk to an inmate and get them to calm down and do things that other people couldn't, just talking common sense to them. I grew up on pretty rough on the street. I was a pretty rough kid. I can relate to them. And one of the things I see, and it really bothers me, and this is something I know that I can work across the aisle with Democrats. This could be a big issue, and it could be big for the state, and it could actually be, I think, implemented in other places. Back in the day, you had trades, just like we're talking about trade schools for children. Well, what happened to teaching inmates a trade? How are you expecting to reduce people going back to prison when they get out? They've been in prison. They're already a felon, so it's harder to get a job. They don't have a driver's license if they've been there any decent amount of time, and they can't get a driver's license usually because they have fines. They can't get the driver's license until they pay the fine. So you're a felon that has fines, that doesn't have a driver's license. Now, how are you going to get a job? So what do you expect them to do? You never trained them to do anything else. So all they did was learn from all the other criminals in there. So we're setting this stuff up for failure, just like we're setting our children up for failure. Look, we've got to start investing in our children more like we used to do in the old days. We've got to get involved in their lives. We've got to get the government out of our lives with that, especially with children's issues. And look, we've got to start training the kids to be something better when they get out, not just, look, they just did a survey, I forgot which, like 19% of children that graduated from high school were proficient in math. Or like 20-some% in
Wow.
reading and writing, or the opposite. But this is a common theme. Like very low educated rates of people just aren't proficient, and so they're not proficient, and they don't have any kind of skill. We're setting our children up for failure. We're setting them up for not being able to succeed. We're hurting our businesses because of it, because the businesses don't have a workforce that they can hire, and along with that, if you just like in prison, it all goes the same. Start teaching these people something that they can come out and actually get a trade to be proud of. Look, a mechanic now, anybody said their work done on their car, 65, up, the last one I went to was $120 an hour. There's nothing wrong with having a labor skill.
No, there isn't.
And I'm like, Dag, this is what lawyers,
Right.
This is a lot of money, all right? But they're skilled at what they do. And nobody else can do it. We can't do it, so that's why we take it to them. So we need to start doing this, but we need to do it across the board, not with the children in schools, but also with Department of Corrections. I truly feel, look, how are we ever going to help these people? They're supposed to be incarcerated for the crime, but when they're done, they're done. All right, but then they get out, they're handcuffed, and we're not teaching them anything. We have to get back to that.
It forces them into a life of crime again because they have no other way to earn money.
I truly think, I think I could get the Republicans on board, but I truly think this is an issue that a lot of times people on the ground have said, well, what do you think you can really do with the Democrats that, something, a major something that could get done that Democrats would go along with? Prison reform. And I'm not talking about reducing sentences. We're usually about more law and order, Republicans, and it seems like a lot of the Democrats they're less law and order. You hear a lot of times if we try to pass a stiffer sentence, the Democrats across the aisle will say, well, you're just trying to put more folk in jail or keep them in jail longer and stuff. Well, I can see their point on some of that, but look, a violent crime. Look, if they keep committing violent crimes, look, they need to be out of society because all they're doing is hurting our society. But look, the ones that want to do good, the ones that want to learn, we need to have vocational skills that they're taught in prison, and we need to enforce that and actually make some policies that happen. And I want to do that in Virginia. That's would be one of my biggest topics is children's vocational schools and DOC vocational schools to teach these people something, so they don't come out and just go right back into prison because if you don't, like I say, don't have a driver's license, you can't get a job.
Right. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
And this is a big thing for me because I've seen it. I've seen all the good folks in prison that made a mistake. Look, a lot of these people don't want to be in prison. And they want to have something. They want to have a job, but when they get out, they can't get a job.
Right.
So they go back to crime. And they're like us. Any of us, I could have been in prison multiple times when I was a child. I got lucky. All right. Sometime I didn't get caught, and I had good mentors. They got me out.
Sounds like there's some stories there, Shayne.
They took me out. They took me out of they took me out of the situation. I
Right.
had some good mentors and stuff.
Right.
I went in the military. That straightened me up. A lot. We hear that a lot.
Right.
But I could have been one of these people. And a lot of us, we can make a mistake and be in jail. That shouldn't be a life sentence of not being able to get a job and not being able to be successful in life. And I think we need to really touch on that, and that's one of my big
Kudos
policies.
to you as a Republican touching on that subject, because a lot of folks shy away from it. It can be controversial for whatever reason. I don't understand. You just want to make sure people have opportunity. That's what America's about.
If you want to reduce crime, teach people in prison to do something when they get out besides crime.
Right, 100%. And on the same subject, law and order, there has been such an attack across the nation over the past on an assault on our law enforcement officers. It's horrible what's happening. They don't even know what situation they're walking into anymore. So tell us a little bit about that up in Virginia. I'm sure you have the same issues.
I have a lot of friends in law enforcement. I used to have a holster company where I have friends in the ATF, all the different all the agencies, FBI, all the local police. I've done holsters and things for police all across the country, and I know a lot of these people. And look, every day they go out, they risk their life. And they're trashed, they're talked bad about, they're trying to take their immunity away, they're trying to sue them, defund them. Look, these people are, what I find really interesting, the people that want to defund the police and talk trash about the police and throw bricks and rocks at police are the first ones to call 911.
That's right. That's right.
So this stuff needs to be fixed. And we need to, law enforcement, EMS, we need to start supporting them more. And they get a lot of praise, but look, we need to start really supporting them by funding them. In my district, let's just go to that since we're talking district first. I've talked to a lot of people in the district that they're EMS and volunteer firefighters. Well, they're not funded for a lot of things. For instance, in Cumberland County, a guy told me that they were mandated to buy new equipment to fight fires that are on electric vehicles. Very, very expensive.
Yep.
They make the mandate, but they don't fund them. So I've committed in my district for sure to start trying to get funding for law enforcement, EMS, especially the volunteer stuff, and especially if we have mandates. If you're going to mandate something, you better give them the money to do
100%.
it. 100%. Right? Not go, because what happens then they have to do fundraisers and take it from the people that are already paying taxes.
Right.
You already have the money in Richmond or DC. So give these people what they need and fund them, especially in a rural area. We have a big issue, in a rural area like Senate District 10. Old folk, what happens if they get hurt in hospitals 45 minutes away? You better have some decent EMS equipment. You should have the best EMS equipment, really.
Right.
And be able to get them to the hospital in a fast and safe manner and with equipment that you need. And I find that across the country, but especially in this district, I've heard from many people that they need more funding, they need more support for their fire and EMS and their law enforcement, and that's one of the things. Like I said, I'm going to go around the district just like this. I'm going to talk to them and see what they need. I'm going to take their comments, and I'm going to have a staff. Remember, I'm just a senator. I'm going to have a staff that is committed to things. I'm going to have a staff that when we need something done, they get on the ball, and I'm going to have an educated staff that's already worked there or has worked in politics and knows the ins and outs also, because I need them. I can't do it all myself. And I need a good staff, and that's one of the things I'm going to do. I'd like to touch on a topic of that. Is one of the things with my opponent, Amanda Chase, that I learned not to do is make sure that when somebody calls you with a dire need, they call your Senate office, that person should be called back. That person, many times I've heard from constituents that they've called, not just her, but others, but this is one of the more extreme cases. They called 2 or 3 times. Son was in the hospital, needed something really bad, or during COVID, you couldn't, your unemployment wasn't coming in like it's supposed to or something. There was a big deal with that. Calling, never got anything back, never heard anything. And look, my policy will be, I better not hear that. My legislative aides, I better not hear that somebody's called us multiple times and didn't get help. My agenda is going to be on that subject is going to be, you call them back immediately, you get on it and you try to fix the problem. And obviously try to fix it first and come to me. And if I need to get involved, then I'll get involved. But there should never be a constituent call their legislator and not get an answer back, ever. That's what they're there for.
It's 100% what they're there for. And, some previous elected officials, $100, if they don't have a $100 donation or more, they're not even bothered with the call.
Well, that's on our list because in 2023, Senator Chase actually told her staff, we all in this arena of Richmond, we all know each other. You can say something to one or two people and it gets around. We all know what's going on. Well, I heard that she had told her staff that if somebody wanted to come and see her in her office while she's in session, if they look and see if they hadn't donated $100 or more, then and I have this right from the person that they told. If they didn't do $100 or more, then she didn't want to see them. Another issue.
It's a big deal, actually, Shayne. I mean, folks, when you vote for politicians, you may not have $100 to give. You may not have $10 to give, and they're supposed to represent all the people.
Well, let's get back to that. All right, so that's another one of my platform things I'll talk about on the ground. Your donation money is sacred. A lot of times, if a person gives you $1,000, the person that gives you $25 might be the same as $1,000 to somebody else.
That's right.
Especially in conservative politics, and especially like a further right conservative like I am, I'm going to have grassroots people supporting me. There's going to be a lot of people that are just hardworking folk. All right, they give me money. They entrusted me. They give me that money, even if they didn't have it really. They could have spent it on something else or needed it for something else. They gave it to me because they entrusted and they believe in me that I'm going to do what they want me to do, and they want to support me. Well, that's sacred. Why am I going to go out and blow it on frivolous things? Why am I going to go out and blow it on expensive meals? Why am I going to blow it on lawsuits that are my personal vendettas when I could have done it on my own money? And you find a lot of, like Senator Chase is always sending out emails that she doesn't have money. She only makes $18,500 a year as a senator, and please donate and please donate. And this is she beats him to death. Well, Senator Chase, if that's the case, why did your financial reports and your disclosures, your conflict of interest disclosures, show that you're a millionaire? All right. Why when you sue the Senate and you sue the Senate clerk because they censured you to try to get it overturned in federal court and give a $35,000 retainer of your donor's money, it ended up costing you $15,000. They gave the other back, approximately $15,000. Why didn't you use your own money? That's your personal vendetta. And also, why did you spend that donor money on that when you're calling it a badge of honor? You're calling this censure a badge of honor. You're spending all your donors' money to try to get it overturned. And a beautiful thing one of the senators said, one of the most conservative senators said on the floor when he was talking about her censure, is that it's not a badge of honor, it's a badge of shame. And it is.
It should be.
So why, but then going around and telling and getting your supporters that believe in you and saying it's a badge of honor. Come on, it's not a badge of honor. A lot of things that she did is not a badge of honor, and they're shameful. And I'm not afraid to say it. When your donor money is spent on frivolous things, traveling all over the country for something that's not in your district. Look, you're a state senator. You're not a U.S. senator. You should have been spending time in your district getting stuff done for your district, not 4 years with no bills passed. This is a common theme. This is one of the most extreme cases because I was there and I saw it.
Right.
But you cannot blow thousands and thousands of dollars of your hard-earned worker donors' money and then ask them for more and expect them to keep believing in you when you did nothing for them. And so my campaign and my donor money will be run lean and mean. You won't see frivolous spending at all. Most of the time I even spend my own money because I don't want to spend my donors' money. Look, a girl gave me $1,000 a few weeks ago as a donation. She's a barber. I'm thinking, after taxes and everything, that's about probably 50 haircuts. All right?
Absolutely.
And that's a big donation. What about the people that couldn't afford it and gave me 25?
That's right.
That should be sacred, and that should be spent properly, and it should be spent for just what you need to run your campaign. And it should be also spent making sure you're in your district doing things, because the people that are giving you that money are in your district supporting you. They expect you to be working in that district to get things done. And they expect also to see progress and to see things accomplished, not saying you're doing something and telling them you're doing something, but you look at the record and they did nothing. Senator Chase, on another thing, she talks about she's such a good Republican. Well, how come you only voted 54% in your last year of office? How come you only voted 54% with your caucus, with the Republicans in the Senate? We talk
only
about
54% with Republican conservatives.
And the few years before that, it was in the 70s. All right, so we're talking about somebody that is basically blowing smoke to people and talking about the past. I supported I was against COVID lockdowns. I was against the mask mandates. I was illegal censure because I was at January 6th. Yeah, you're at January 6th, but that's not one of the reasons. That's not all the reasons why you got censured. You got censured for all the other reasons. And throughout the campaign, I hope that people will go look at those videos, because those videos are those senators talking about her censure, or all conservative Republican, most of them conservative Republican senators, and told the real story of why she got censured and why she was the second one in history to be censured. So the money is a big thing, and I'm jumping around a bit trying to cover these things, but how I spend my campaign money and my donors' money also will show how I will take care of their money when I'm in office.
Well, these are incredibly important, and it shows people really need to vet their candidate and understand who's running. And in particular, as you said, she's a carpetbagger. Folks, that's always, for us here in South Florida, it's always kind of a red flag. It's like, you're just moving to this district. Why?
Well, here's the thing. I thought about this the other day. We always talk about, like, somebody from California, they run their state, and say it's a liberal person. They come somewhere else because their state's messed up. They don't want to pay their taxes anymore. They supported all these policies that ruined their state, that made them leave. Don't come here and bring your stuff here.
Right.
All right. Well, that's what I say with Amanda Chase. Don't bring your failed political career. You did nothing. You were berated by all your colleagues. None of them want you back in the Senate. I can guarantee you. I will challenge Amanda Chase to get one endorsement from a senator in Virginia. I'll get one sitting senator. I would challenge her to get one endorsement.
That's a big challenge, folks. I think you should follow that and see what happens.
So, we need to start getting back to, like I said, getting stuff done and not letting these people get back in office that are just bringing their failed policies, again.
Again, we're speaking with Shayne Snavely, ShayneForVA.com, ShayneForVirginia.com. And you can look him up online, contact him if you support him. He needs all the support he can get. Shayne, the only subject I really wanted to talk about that we haven't touched on yet is energy issues that in Virginia. So I'll let you kind of expand on that a little bit.
Well, energy prices are sky high, just like taxes, just like gas, everything else. What can I do as a state senator? Well, one, I can support a lot of things the governor is doing. The governor is looking at small nuclear reactor facilities. Solar stuff, I'm not so into. I don't believe in going and taking up acres and acres of farmland for solar. When it's feasible and it's right, I would consider that. But look, one of the things I would do is the same as a fiscal responsibility for donors' money. The same that will also shows I will be fiscal responsible for the taxpayers' money when bills come up, when the budget comes up, and amendments come up. One, I want to try to give that back to them. Like I'm talking about, fund some things that the people need. But energy is the same way. When an energy company wants to increase rates, guess where that comes? That comes before the Senate. The legislature has to approve that. All right, so I'm going to be watching that. And if I'm going to look at it. If an energy company wants to increase rates because they say they need more money, I'm going to look and see, well, did you make $5 billion last year? If you made $5 billion last year, this hardworking person that's making $15 doesn't need their taxes raised and doesn't need a bill increased. So yeah, I'm going to be an advocate for watching the energy companies and how they do their rates. And luckily in Virginia, that I'm one of the people that can combat that. And if it doesn't make sense, then it's not going to happen. Look, the people need relief. They need the government out of their. I hear this all the time. I want the government out of my life. I want to be able to live my life. I want to try to be prosperous. I want to have a business without being regulated and taxed to death where I can't get anything done. And so many people in the middle class now are struggling like they're poor.
Absolutely. It feels like the middle class is shrinking drastically, actually.
So we need to look at different alternatives for energy, and the governor's doing some of that stuff. And like I said, the tax thing with the Attorney General, he's wanting to overhaul the tax code. These are things I'm going to be 100% for.
Folks, our 2 hours are up. Shayne Snavely, ShayneForVA.com. Folks, Shayne is SHAYNE, Y for yes, ShayneForVA.com. Look him up online. You can reach out to Shayne, 804-720-7910. This is a grassroots campaign. If I've ever seen one, he needs all the support he can get. And Shayne, this has been a wonderful couple hours. We really have a great insight of who you are. I wish you very well and in your election up in Virginia.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy coming down. I consider you a friend. I just ask people, even if they're not in my state, look, put a good conservative office. I can always use the donation. $1 means a vote. $1 means a vote. $5. It doesn't have to be $1,000. But please help me with my campaign.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shayne Snavely.